I wonder if enough people can find self-expression to counteract the job losses that are resulting from and will continue to result from technological advance.
We need a new ethic and politics that decouples a person's claim on existence from doing profitable work that someone will pay you for.
It just seems like if you take where we are now and sort of look at all the data points and extrapolate, it doesn't look good.
The ability to pick up your phone and find out what's true has also never been better. So it's like we're both vulnerable in a way that we've never been, and we're empowered in a way that we've never been.
It's always been true about technological progress.
Yeah. It just seems like there's a certain amount of time we have left before we give birth to some new thing.
Well, you want to look for some fear around that, you got the right guy right here.
Well, we've talked about it
I've
in
expressed
depth.
those fears here,
Yeah. I mean, and Josh Zepps freaked me out this morning. He sent me some articles about these self-driving trucks that are already going in Australia that are as big as a 767, and they're driving down the road by themselves with cargo, probably nuclear waste or something, just tooling down the road.
But people are so bad at driving that the robots just have to get reliably better than people, and then you'll just feel nothing but relief.
They probably already are.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think they probably are. As far as I know from what I hear from Tesla, the man hours they have of people using the autopilot assisted driving, and I think that has been safer than just pure ape.
Did you see the video of the guy who fell asleep in traffic in San Francisco? He's literally out cold and his car's driving him on the highway.
No.
It's kind of fantastic.
The autopilot worked.
No, it does work. Texting and driving scares the shit out of me.
This is the argument for robot drivers.
Yeah.
And also it will open up when you are ultimately being driven safely by a car that you trust more than you trust yourself. Then just imagine the information consumption, entertainment options that open up there. You'll watch movies, you'll listen to podcasts, you'll get work done, and it'll become a space of we're not going to miss having to pay attention to the road. Maybe some people will want to drive recreationally. It will just be a new space where you won't believe that 40,000 people every year were dying because we couldn't figure out how to drive safely.
I mean, ultimately, that's when I look at the event horizon, we're not going to get our shit together by the time artificial intelligence is given birth.
The incentives are not aligned to make us prudent in the development of that, and an arms race is the worst case for that, because the incentives are to get to the end zone as quickly as you can, because the guy next to you is doing the same, and you don't know whether he's ahead of you or behind you, right? And it's a winner take all scenario. Absolutely. Because the amount of wealth that will go to the winner of this race is unimaginable. I mean, it's just we're talking about a level of kind of windfall profits that we just haven't seen in any other domain.
Well, a perfect example is the creation of the atomic bomb. I mean, look at 70 years from the creation of the atomic bomb to today, which is literally a blip in human history, just a tiny little blink of an eye.
That story is especially sobering because two famous physicists involved. Rutherford gave a talk saying that we're never going to unlock the energy that we now know to be in the atom. And Leo Szilard, the next day, and in direct response to this announcement, like, okay, that's bullshit. And he, the next morning, woke up and produced the equations that unlocked it.
The next day. With this rise of the machines, if we do have things automated.
In the near term, we clearly have an employment problem. I mean, there are jobs that will go away that are not coming back.
You say, look, there are changes that are going to happen. For example, AI will displace millions of people from their work.
I think it's the largest employment sector for working class males is driving.
Yeah. It's
self-driving cars are just around the bloody corner. What's going to happen to the millions of Americans who make a living driving trucks?
We've always had, it hasn't been such a pressing problem for thousands of years because there's always been so much to do just to survive. there has to be some level of wealth inequality that is unsustainable, that people will not tolerate. And you begin to look more and more like a banana republic until you become a banana republic. But now we're talking about, the U.S. or the developed world where all the wealth is. So redistribution is the end game. But that's a toxic concept for half of the country right now.
Right, the idea of the welfare state, the idea of perpetuating that and spreading it acrost the board.
Yeah.
So let's not forget there are real human beings in coal country who have generations of have spent generations working in this industry.
The precipice we're getting to is virtually everyone is going to be in the position of these coal miners. Whatever the solution is, we should not be hostage to the idea that whatever job we were doing, that job has to continue to exist, no matter what the environmental consequences, no matter what the health consequences, no matter how it closes the door to good things that we want. We didn't do that with, the people who are making buggy whips. At a certain point, we move on and we make progress, and we don't let that progress get rolled back. We need a new ethic and politics that decouples a person's claim on existence from doing profitable work that someone will pay you for. Some version of that's going to happen. The question is it going to happen in a way where we get this massive dislocation in wealth inequality, where all of a sudden someone's got a company and products and a business model which obviates 30% of the American workforce over the span of 3 months, or you have some political and economic and ethical context in which we start sharing the wealth with everyone.
Well, the big solution to that a lot of people bring up is universal basic income. But universal basic income, there's people that have a problem with that because they believe that people are only motivated by want. And then as soon as you give them money, then they're not going to just pursue their interests. They're going to lay around and do nothing and just live off of that money only.
I think universal basic income, there are reasons to worry that it's not a perfect solution, because you want to incentivize the things you want to incentivize. You need to just understand the consequences of any system you would put in place. But there's just no question that viewed as an opportunity, this is the greatest opportunity in human history. We're talking about canceling the need for dangerous, boring, repetitive work and freeing up humanity to do interesting, creative, fun things. Now, how could that be bad? Well, and it'll be bad if it leads to just extraordinary wealth inequality that we don't have the political or ethical will to fix. And because if we have a culture of people who think, I don't want any handouts, and I certainly don't want my neighbor to get any handouts, and I don't want to pay any taxes so that he can be a lazy bum.
And I'm worried that in our society, for example, that doesn't even want to provide health care to everyone, where some people say, why should I pay for you when you're sick? Even though we live in a society that's wealthy enough to do just that we'll never get to a point where we say, you know what, these machines have generated incredible wealth. Let's allow all the people who've been displaced to benefit from that wealth.
If we have this, hangover from Calvinism, that makes it impossible to talk creatively and reasonably about what has changed, it could be a very painful bottleneck we have to pass through until we get to something that is much better.
The question of whether or not that's right or wrong comes back to America's sort of Puritan work ethic as well, right? The idea that it would necessarily be wrong for a person not to be doing something productive. Right. But if the robots are doing all the work and they're producing lots of wealth, then who cares if someone's doing something productive or not?
Right. We're worried that they're going to get mad at the people like you that are out there being ambitious, and they're going to key your Mercedes.
This is a perennial problem where people need to find meaning in life.
Yep.
In the ideal case, we'll get to a place where there's actually much less that has to be done because we have machines that do it, and we have seen the wisdom of mitigating wealth inequality to some acceptable level, where so all boats begin to rise with this tide to some degree. So whether it's universal basic income or so we have some mechanism to spread the wealth around. But then there's the real question of what do you do with your
all
life?
day? Yeah. So what do you think people will do?
That's the easiest one.
It's not, but it's
to
not
me.
so easy because people are confused. People
Well, those
think,
people need to get their shit together. I mean, that's giving someone free time. But find a hobby, man. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do. If you told me that I never had to work again, and I would just have to find things to do all day, and all my food and everything would be taken care of, that would be the easiest choice I'd have ever made in my life.
And also, I think maybe people just want work. They want purpose. Like the people who were
But
retrenched
you could have purpose as well as universal basic income. You'd have to sort of program it into the zeitgeist of the culture.
Right, and give people, voluntary ways of expressing themselves and contributing that weren't tied to their income.
Yeah, I like when people make stuff. I like when people pursue, like this table's made by an artist, you know? I like when people make handmade knives. I like that stuff. I think I think people get deep satisfaction in doing things like that.
If you asked me to make a clock, wouldn't know where to start, Joe.
Well, you would figure it out.
I would.
If you gave
the
you enough
money was
time
good
and
enough.
books and all that stuff, but it might not be a clock for you. It might be that Buddha sculpture. Somebody made that and sent it to me.
It's great.
I mean, there's a lot of things that people can make that other people would enjoy.
I wonder if enough people can find self-expression through that to counteract the job losses that are resulting from and will continue to result from technological advance.
Well, I think that with universal basic income is possible, but I think making things is not necessarily the only way to do it. I mean, it is making art, being creative, encouraging people to think of that as an actual way to live.
Yeah.
That's a big impediment and a big hurdle that people have to get over.
It's like the North Korea thing that you were saying. Like, if you got rid of the North Korean regime, would the people who lived under it have the scope, just the mental scope to know what to do with themselves? In some ways, it's a comparable question with capitalism, right? If you took away the capitalist incentive to work and suddenly, all of a sudden, everybody was liberated and had a basic income that gave them all the sustenance that they need, would they have the horizons available to them, having been raised in this idea of like, you got to work, got to climb your way up the ladder, got to get a 9-to-5 job, go to college, get an education, please the boss, get your promotion. To have all of that suddenly fall away and be like, you know what, just go and make clocks.
At some point, when there are billions of people out of work, we're going to have to decide to say, you know what? Those machines have produced a higher net potential quality life for everyone. Maybe we have to spread the wealth. I'm pessimistic about the future, although as my friend Cormac McCarthy says, because he's a really chipper fellow, but he writes very dark books. And when I first met him, I said, how can you be so cheerful? And he said, I'm a pessimist, but that's no reason to be gloomy.